Pipe Network presents.
On this episode of Season 4, let's talk.
When you're in the creative field, somehow you have to really evolve and be better at something. And in the long term basis, right? So I am just really trying to put myself on on my future self, right? So put my feet, right? So that I'm thinking long term, right? So I'm not just thinking just to survive this week or next week or next month, right? So I'm really thinking to make sure that it's going to be successful, it's going to be sustainable, and I'm investing for my future self.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Rajiv Show, and I'm your host Rajiv Doreswamy. And this show aims to help reach out to those who are currently struggling in life and to remind you that life is indeed beautiful when you're inspired to make it your own. Before we get into this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to whichever platform you are using. And if you want to connect with me, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on TikTok at The Rajiv Show. Hey, folks, welcome to The Rajiv Show. And I gotta say, this is the 40th episode. I cannot believe that I've already reached the 40th episode. And of course, with my 40th guest, of course, is an entrepreneur, a creative person in terms of the fields that he works in. Digital, he's into the digital, saying marketing stuff. And I don't know if I butchered also the description, but I want to introduce my guest, Jaychrist Teves. Hey, pal, how you doing?
Hey man, how are you? I'm doing good. Thank you so much for inviting me, and yeah, I'm looking forward for this great talk with you, man.
Awesome, awesome. For our 40th episode, of course, I'm going to ask the same stuff that I did from the past few episodes. Is that could you give a little bit of background about yourself to my listeners?
Surprisingly, I'm also asking that to my guests. That's fine. But yeah, cool man. So yeah, just to give some context about me. So I'm 100% Filipino, proud creative entrepreneur. So I'm living now with my wife and my 2-year-old daughter here in the Smariñas, Cavite. So Cavite, Philippines. So uh, I'm proud living or raised by my parents on in the Philippines. So right now I'm currently in the field of UX, right? So for those who haven't heard that before, don't get intimidated. So maybe it's just a buzzword, right? But UX means just to make it a little bit more in layman's terms. So UX meaning we're doing digital stuff, design, right? Marketing innovations to really uh make your business or a brand to be more the authority of your target niche, right? So whatever you have or whatever project or passion project, business or side hustles you have right now. So my team of creatives, right? So Filipino creatives and designers, software engineers also, mostly freelancers, of course. Obviously I
Mm,
can hire them full time, right? So but we were
yeah.
to be exact, we're just making cool stuff to make sure that your brand, your business, or should be or must be noticed by the right person, right? So I think that's the most important thing. Make sure that you are talking to the right people, right? And you are communicating your message uh, ethically, right? So that's it. And
Mm, Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
personal level, of course, in human level. So I've been, I've been trying to uh build my creative confidence for the past 6 years. So I created a past podcast as well, and do some side hustles and passion project to really hone my skills. So and yeah, I'm pretty much really creative guy, right? So don't ask me math equations or questions. So I probably can answer that, right? So that's it. I hope I hope that's okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, right off the bat, creativity. One thing I want to say though is that creative is one of my fields, and I think that's where we can relate between you and me because if you've heard of my podcast, of course, I am half musician and half artist, and I kind of dabbled in that life. So it's kind of the work ethic, the the attention to detail, and all this stuff. You know, the discipline.
Mm-hmm.
It's all integrated into my brain basically. So this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be a creative conversation. So
Yeah,
yeah,
100%.
before we get into the creative block, we need to turn the time. We need to go to the time machine, and we need to go back to high school. If you and I were high school classmates, pal, I gotta ask, who were you in high school? Are you also the same creative, or you're the introverted, the extroverted, or the sporty guy,
Yeah.
or the guy with a lot of
Mm-hmm.
girls? Who are you in high school?
Yeah. Uh Actually, I'm the most introverted guy, the shy person in the room, right? So as you can see, my last name is start with letter T, so I'm in the back row seat, right? So right, so
Mm,
most of my friends are really, I'm not that really outgoing guy who really speak his ideas, to really share his ideas. I'm not really that guy compared before, right? So, or when I'm in high school.
mm,
Right now I'm really trying to really make sure to innovate myself, design the life that I want for my future kids, for my kids, right? So, or
mm,
for the for those people around me, right? So and luckily I
yeah.
survived that that pace, right? So yeah, to answer your questions, I'm the
Mm,
I think I'm the introverted guy. Yeah.
interesting. Interesting, because it kind of takes the
Mm-hmm.
the conversation into a different thing now, because in the life of a podcaster you have to be there, you have to be square, you have to be
Yeah.
the guy
Mm-hmm.
who talks a lot, and it's kind of a weird transition, and the fact that you've taken that leap. But my curious question is that when was that transitional point where you said you were at home, or you were probably in a school or wherever you were, and you decided, hey, I want to challenge myself to get out of this funk and get into expressing myself in podcast form, or get into business, because I think even business wise you have to have a certain personality
Yeah.
regardless of who you are.
100%. Mm-hmm.
So what's that story? Take us back.
I think Filipino are naturally resourceful and innovative, and at the same time we're in I don't want to generalize, but for me, in my own opinion, right? So we are very very passionate, right? So we know that we can do something greater than something that we are doing right now,
Mm,
right? So something like that. So it's beyond making money. It's beyond doing a business, creating a business, right? It's beyond it's beyond uh, that definition of uh, creative, right? So there's a lot of things that uh, sometimes it's really complex, and I can't really explain it, right? But when
mm,
to answer your questions, when when I started to realize that I need to really transition from being introvert, right, into be the front man, because I
Mm.
want to really create a business, right? I want to really be the guy, or the, the experts on my field, right? So it just,
Mm.
it just really happens because we I try to really share my journey and document my journey when I graduated from college, right? So as you know, when you go outside on that room or on that campus, right? So it's the real world, right? So even though
Yeah.
when I'm in college, so I try to really hone my skill on as a side hustle. I created few side hustles back then, and I also help
Mm.
my fellow students or colleagues, or what you call this, uh, friends who try to make some money, right? So uh, and to support themselves as well,
Yeah.
right? So and with similar challenges I have
Mm.
before, right? So and but I realized when you are outside those campus, when you are outside, when you are in the real world, right? So you have to you have to be uh you have to be really, really be creative, right, and resourceful. So you can just sit there, right, so, and be shy, right? So and I realized I have to be the front guy if I want to create my business. So when I'm into corporate
Yeah.
world, so luckily I got a job from a corporate world after college. It's a BPO company, so right.
Mm.
So we back then I designed a website, right? So some services as well as a supervisor. So I got a job on that particular time frame, and I try to really create and document my journey when I'm on that situation, right? So I just share it to medium.com, right? So create an article, and it's just really happened that okay, so this is it, right? So my confidence is building, right? So and one of my podcast episode, it's really valuable. I think so I guess that someone there that she mentioned that confidence builds by doing. So that's the actual, I think that's the actual quote that I was doing back then when I'm trying to transition from being an introverted, shy person to be a more interactive, right? So or
Mm.
uh, more what you call this, more visionary type of guy that who can share ideas no matter what, right? So no matter how hard it is, no matter how challenges it is. So I just to try to document my journey without the ego, right? So so that's it. Actually,
Mm.
it's really, it's absolutely uh one of the best experience, right? So and I'm still loving it, and I think that's one of the reason as well why I'm in Rajiv's show, right? Yeah.
Interesting. So basically, you pushed your confidence. You took the leap. Uh,
Yeah.
in your regards to your experience, you took the leap, and yeah, that's good. So I've known a lot of folks towards my time where most of them they have some good ideas, but then they keep it stuck
Yeah.
inside them, and then
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of sad. And then after 80 years, and they kind of pass it on to generations. That's the sad thing, though.
Yeah.
Probably
Mm-hmm.
I gotta ask though, is the confidence, when the confidence rose, were the adverse adversaries, oh yeah, yeah, my English, were the adversaries normally the same type of adversaries that you faced, when you were coming up with your business, and when you took that risk, were they the same adversaries for a regular, entrepreneur, which is of course, I'm sure, I don't know if you agree with me, which is of course the family. They were the first that would reject the idea that you're taking this risk, and then all of a sudden, they're the one who challenges you by saying, no, this is not possible. You need to stick to regular life. Is that from? Is it who are the first adversaries? Is it the family or is it the friends who challenge you to push you from one level to the
Uh-huh.
other?
Yeah, 100%. That's really a great question. So to be honest, Rajiv, so I think uh I just what I really, trying to do back then is to really push myself uh harder as much as I can, because I think uh in the marketing and innovation space, so the riskiest thing that that you don't want to do is, or that the last thing that you want to do is to rely on one skill, right? So, and luckily my parents, it's we're not, we're not that rich, right? So we have a decent home, right? So but we have
Yeah.
small sari store, right? So luckily they really support, they are very very supportive, right, until now, right? So even though I have
Mm,
I have a daughter
that's
now
good.
and I have a wife, and I think the most
Mm,
challenging part is that to really kill the internal, those internal voices that ask that's saying that you can't do it, that you can do it, right? So that idea is belong to someone, that idea
mm,
is part of, might be existing, right? So something like that, there's always a doubts,
mm,
right? So and
yeah.
it's something that, you know I think most Filipinos creatives, or most Filipino creatives are experiencing, right? And I think that's
Mm,
the most important thing. You have to really uh, kill those internal voices, right? Those voices inside you that really killing your dream, that killing your passion, that killing your motivations, right? So yeah, I think that's it to answer your questions. That's the most challenging part, and I think I'm glad that I've overcome those.
that's good. That's good. That's amazing. You're a legend. I mean, of course, I've said
Yeah.
legend 100 times. I'm sure I've said it 100 and million times, and over all the conversations that I've had over the years. Not even the years, over the periods of the recordings. Yeah, wow. It felt like years when I was collaborating with a lot of people.
Man, thank you so much. You too.
Taking that risk is one of the most challenging part, not
Mhm.
just in the field of saying entrepreneurship, because I'm sure even podcasting itself required a lot of internal confidence before you actually
Yeah,
took
100%.
the risk and decided, hey,
Mhm.
because one is, I've noticed that you really love the stuff that you do, and there were times that you had the Friday live streams, which is pretty cool. I mean, I was in a couple of those live streams, and I was really inspired by how much you've improved, and it's pretty cool. Uh,
Yeah.
and it's really interesting. I'm a big believer. I'm a big believer in what you can achieve.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, man. So I think yeah, I think that's that's something that I really like about you as well. You're doing a lot of good stuff here, and you're really trying to uplift your guests, uplift your audience. I think that's one of uh, the best things that we can share for a lot of striving, or probably starving artists or creatives out there, especially in the Philippines, right?
Well, in order to enjoy it, you got to go through it, so that you
Yeah,
could at least
100%.
teach something.
100%. Yeah, for sure.
So I gotta ask, um, how does it feel to run a business? And I'm sure this is not a question that you get asked usually.
Gotcha. Yeah, how does it feel? So that's a great question, man. So you really got me thinking with your questions, and I like that. how does it feel? It's, it really, it feels that that it's something that, you know I feel like that I'm investing in my future self. So I think that's the most important part when you are building a business or creating an empire or whatever you are passionate at, right? So especially in business, so you
Mm.
have to think, uh you have to think different angles, right? So, and one of the things that I've
Yeah.
learned from the finest folks in the marketing and entrepreneurship and innovation space is, uh, you have to think that businesses, you have to think that whatever you are doing, you are investing with your future self, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people, especially Filipinos, right? So they don't want to wrap their head on investing, right? So some would say, sometimes some would say it's so boring, right? So I don't have the money, right? So I
Yeah.
don't have, I
Scam.
don't have to. Yeah, it's a scam,
Scam and all that stuff.
investment, blah blah blah, whatever it is, and it's okay, right? It's fine, right? So it's not bad because I'm there as well before, right? So I'm really, I think I'm
Mm.
it's really really it's not really easy to really change that culture, really change that mindset. It really takes time, right? And eventually, uh you know killing those voices inside you, those demons right inside you, and thinking that you are investing in your future self, right? So, or you're investing with your future products or services or other offers that you want to offer for your target niche. I think that would really help those people who are in denial, that they need a business, right? So that, in all honesty, right? So there's no secure jobs anymore, right? So especially when these
True.
shits happen,
True.
right? There's a lot of shits happening right now, right? So you have to think a lot of new ways
Yeah.
to survive, right? So not just to survive, hopefully to strive, or thrive as well, in a long period of time, because
Mm.
when you're in the creative field, somehow, somehow you have to really evolve and be better at something. And in the long term
Mm.
basis, right? So I'm just really trying to put myself on on my future self, right? So put my pit, right? So
Mm.
that I'm thinking long term, right? So I'm not just thinking just to survive this week or next week or next month, right? So I'm really thinking
Yeah.
to make sure that it's going to be successful, it's going to be sustainable, and I'm investing for my future self.
That's cool. That's cool. I got one question before we go to our short break. Going back to high school, of course, when you mentioned you're an introverted, I forgot to ask, were you a competitive type of person when you were in high school? Were you a competitive in terms of academics,
Uh-huh.
in such a way that you at least, because there are a lot of introverted who are valedictorians.
Yeah.
Are you also that kind of introverted, or you you
No,
found a way to at least survive the best you could?
absolutely not, right? So I think I'm sorry, just to answer your question, I'm not that guy who has the best grades, right? So has the best awards, right? So but
Hmm.
I'm the guy who try to really lead if I need to, right? So back when in high school, right? So but I'm not the guy
Hmm.
who really, the front page or the front man who, when someone, when someone needs help, I would go there and try to really
Hmm.
help. I'm not that guy because I'm just trying to do my own shit, you know. I'm just trying to do my own shit. I just want to
Hmm.
survive in this class, right? So and luckily I survived that with 75 average, right? Or 80 average sometimes.
Hmm.
So I think that, that's it. I
Hmm.
think um I think I'm more on to really try to really just survive that class or that those years when I'm in high school. and uh
Mm,
my mom and dad, or my mama and my papa, don't really trying me don't really try to push hard on when it comes to academics, right? So
mm.
and they
Yeah,
just do what
interesting.
yeah uh, they just do what they need to do, right? So feed us, right? So give some
Yeah,
food on the table every day, right? So, and I'm really grateful
yeah,
with that. And they really helped me to really grow as a human being, right? So I think that's the most important part: grow
yeah.
as a human being.
Interesting, interesting. Anyway, folks, we're just gonna have a short break, and when we come back, I'm gonna unravel some interesting stuff about my guest because I'm sure my guest has some interesting tips, some personal tips. Anyway, stay tuned. This is going to be an interesting conversation. Do you want to get great deals? Go to Pipe Marketplace. Visit pipenetwork.co/marketplace and use the promo code TRS to get exclusive discounts. Chat with them now. Basta Podcast, Pipe yan.
Catch the Pizarro Tales weekly as we tackle issues about education and share experiences about teaching. Hosted by Jay Australia, available on your favorite podcast platforms.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Rajiv Show, and this is also the 40th episode. I want to highlight my guest Jaychrist Teves, who is a young entrepreneur. I like to say he's young. I like to believe
Thank you, man.
he's a young entrepreneur, and he's a very interesting conversationalist. He's got a lot of experiences in the bag and a lot of stuff that are interesting to talk about in business because business is a lovely topic to talk about, and it's connected to motivation. So, pal, I gotta ask. In this series, in this portion of the conversation, I really want to know, do you have like some leading principles and some valuable stuff that you would love to leave our listeners, some of your
100%,
principles?
100%, man. Thank you for asking that. And I think I can live at least five principles with regards to entrepreneurship, or designing the life or business you really deserve. So I have five principles here. So the first one would be less but better. So I don't know if you're listening to my podcast, right? Or if you're following my journey, right? So I'm been talking about essentialism, right? So it's the disciplined pursuit of less but better,
Mm,
right? So for me, my perspective about that, or my trans uh what I translated within terms to my journey is to really help or find something that really create value, right? So for your future self, for your loved ones, for those people around you, and even for your clients, right? So if you can do uh, less work with specific time, right? But you can deliver it better. So I think that would be really, really helpful for your clients, right? So if you can do the work of 8 hours work, you can decrease that to 4 hours work. So I think that's better, right? So, and within life, you can also integrate that with life, right? So less excuses, better result.
mm,
Less excuses, better action, right? So less bullshit, better result. So something like that. So that's how I translated it, right? So, and this book really, really shaped my thinking and really really helped me to act on my dreams. So it was written by Greg McCone. So essentialism. So you can check that out. It's really, really fascinating read. So the next principle that I want to share is build meaningful relationship, right? So I think it's really,
mm,
really crucial nowadays, right? So if you want to build a business, if you want to build a brand, if you want to stay up, or to really stay on the game, right? So you have to build relationship to make, uh, to make things, to make sure that you're playing the infinite game, right? So, and most
Mm.
people, most people are trying to just, trying to deliver a result, probably, right? Trying to deliver on services, right?
Mm.
For me, B2B is, almost dead or outdated. H2H is the new norm, right? So human to human, right? So you have to build human relationship, uh, right, with your prospect clients, with your target niche, right? So I hope that makes sense, right? And
Mm.
the third one is,
Yeah.
I think limitations breed creativity. So, and I think going back with my journey, I really try to accept my limitations, right? And surprisingly, it breeds more creativity. It breeds more inspiration, and which, which would go to my fourth principle, which is, pay it forward, right? So when I accepted my limitation, right, when I accepted that, okay, this is, I'm being self-aware of my weaknesses. Okay, these are my weaknesses. I need to make sure that I turn that into strengths, right? So, and pay it forward to those people who believe in me, right? So, and the last one, so I hope this is not too long, right? So thank you, Rajiv, again for inviting me. So the last one is, everyone is a creative, right? So it doesn't matter
Yeah.
if you have a 9 to 5 job, right? So if you are a buko juice vendor, right? So actually, buko juice vendor, I consider them a mentor. So I have friends outside near in my
Mm.
home, that when I talk to how they, how do they make money from their, it's entrepreneurship, right? So it's really being resourceful, right? So they are creative as well, right? So, and it doesn't matter if you have MBA, it
Mm.
doesn't matter if you're a writer, freelancer, everyone is a creative, right? So, and you have to think that
Mm.
no matter what job it is, right? So you can think better ways to improve it, right? So you can think something that probably helps someone solve a problem within your niche or within your target market. And yeah, I think that's all.
Coming back to the conversation, I mean, I want to share a little bit of experience because for me, entrepreneurship is a new thing. It's a new bag. It's something that I haven't tried on
Yeah.
yet. And to me, the reason why I went
Mhm.
into decided to choose entrepreneurship is not for the fact of the fancy lifestyle, as they say it. It's not really that. What I really like about
Yeah.
entrepreneurship is the fact that
100%. Mhm.
it's it's an introduction to how life is, and it's the inspiration, the story, the journey itself is more love than it is on the end result, which is of course abundance of money and saying. But the thing that I love about that is building connections and building thing. But my main reasoning for choosing
Yeah.
entrepreneurship, aside from the things that I mentioned earlier, is that it's it's life. It's life. It's how you get to survive. I mean,
It's a
yeah,
day-to-day
and
basis. Yeah.
it's funny. I like to share this personal story because there were when I was introduced to the name entrepreneurship. There's this funny thing that went on in my head. I don't know what I was thinking at that time, but I was a really crazy dude. Is that uh, when I was introduced to it, of course, I mentioned this a couple of times. When I was introduced to entrepreneurship by Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, um, what
Yeah.
got me into
Mhm.
it is the fact that there are so many possibilities of handling and earning and growing money, and also growing that personality along the way. And it's so fascinating when the first time I heard the word entrepreneurship, it kind of to me it's like a cool name, you know. In a sense, like if
Yeah.
I'm just saying this as a joke, but if some weird
Mhm.
guy who actually hears this podcast names their kid entrepreneur, more power to you. I don't know how you're gonna get through attendance in school, but yeah, it's that's what I was thinking at that moment, because the name entrepreneur, if you think about it, the word itself is very long, but it has that
Yeah.
niche. It's a je ne sais quoi, or that creme de la creme kind of delicious flavor in the name. And I'd imagine if I'd have a son, yeah,
Interesting.
if
Yeah.
I'd have a son or someone, I'd name them entrepreneur Doreswamy. It's kind of that's the interesting thing. And it is fascinating. I love the idea of it,
Yeah.
and further exposure to the idea of entrepreneurship is by my mentor, which I've seen firsthand how he operates and how he
Mhm.
he does sing his business. But the thing is that he gave me an eye-opening insight to what entrepreneurship is. And that's one thing, I used to hang around with him, and yeah, but that is the main opening for me to
Cool.
entrepreneurship. And that's what, when I decided after college, getting into the real world, I want to find a
Do you
way.
mind what's the insight?
Which one? Which
Do you
one?
mind to share that insight,
Which
man?
one?
The insight from your mentor
uh
about entrepreneurship.
the insight is the fact that the experience of it in itself is the insight from me.
Gotcha.
And in a way,
Mm, yeah.
um the way I see it is that I was really mind blown by the fact that, people, looking at a perspective of this, is that there was this question in my head: what would I do in order to survive? All that stuff. What would I do in order to
Yeah.
survive?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. And what I decided to do was to open my mind. After, of course, going back to reading the book of Rich Dad Poor Dad, I went and I decided to
Uh-huh.
see what I could come up with, come up with the life. And then after reading that book, of course, the hunger for the thing is that I really love the idea of it, but I didn't have the exposure to the practicality of it. So it was more on the theory side. I know the theory side, except but
Uh-huh.
no practicality.
Yeah.
So what I did
Mm-hmm.
was, I
Gotcha.
decided to go on a journey and figure out how I can uh, make this conversation worthwhile, and make this journey worthwhile. So I decided to take a risk, and I met my mentor. The story of how I met him is,
Amazing. Mm-hmm.
he was selling comic books in a place in Baguio City, and we just bumped into each other. We got into the conversation, and then one thing led to the other. That's how our friendship grew over the past 2 years. He supported me and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and he also gave me firsthand experience to sing, because he and I would lock into a conversation. The one thing I really admire
Amazing.
about
Mm-hmm.
him is he and I would lock into a conversation, and then that conversation could be anything under the sun. It will still be, the
Yeah.
um,
Mm-hmm.
how would I say it? The juice of the conversation will never lose out on. So the juice of the conversation will never die out, because there's it continues. One thing leads to the other, and the relevance of it is not really it won't die, in a sense. I don't know if I'm getting the message across, but yeah, that's the
Mm-hmm.
main gist of saying
Yeah,
the thing.
100%. Yeah, that's really good. And I think when you say mentor, it's really about relationship. I think that's one of the important thing when when you're sharing your your story with your mentors. And some people think that when you find a mentor, right, so give all the meat and potatoes and just do it, right? So
Hmm.
but for me, having a mentor, right, so it's really building those human,
Yeah,
real life
connection.
human
Yeah.
relationship,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's the yeah, that's what mentors really mean,
Yeah.
right? Or or a mentee
Yeah.
really means you're creating a relationship with them, not just a transactional
Yeah.
transactional relationship, right?
And
So it's a real human relationship.
yeah. And to add into the first-hand experience that I've had was there were times where I really enjoyed. There was a time where I remember this was one of the experience that I've had. My mentor shifted his spot. You know, he had a shop, he had a physical store, and that he wanted to diversify his store. So someone offered the space. Hey, you want to have the space? And he said okay, and uh, and then decided to take the leap and then went on with it. So he took the risk, and
Amazing.
during that time, this was one of the most interesting portion of that experience was that when we were transporting all his goods because he had a lot of stuff. He had a lot of good stuff that he was selling. You know, the like I said, he's a brick and mortar salesman, so he had a lot of amazing stuff that he was selling, and transferring all that stuff was really tough. It was a pain in the ass, to be honest. But in the end of it was the experience in itself was fun because we had to figure. That was the first time when we were transferring all the stuff. That was the first hand experience on how it is to have a tangible store, and of course, having that experience in itself is the amazing feeling. And then after that, what happened next
Uh-huh.
was there was a
Yeah.
period where I decided he gave me an opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
have first-hand shot at entrepreneurship in as a salesman. So it kind of gave me that um, kind of
Yeah.
opening
Mm-hmm.
OJT kind of feeling, which is kind of cool. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it because
Apprenticeship. Yeah.
it was not really apprenticeship. It's more
Mm-hmm.
like uh, I don't know what
Uh-huh.
exactly is the word for it, but more like first-hand experience to. Yeah, I mean, yeah, first-hand experience
Uh-huh. Gotcha. Yeah.
to the idea of selling. You know, getting to sell, getting to speak to customers, building that relationship with the customers. So those are the
Mm-hmm.
things that I learned from that. And I remember I spent a day where I made a good amount of sales. I'm not gonna divulge how much sales that was, but the feeling of it is really amazing. And I shared the information with him, and I told him this is the feeling that I. And he said, "Good, good, this is good." So yeah, and what happened next
Yeah. That's
was
interesting. Mm-hmm.
amazing. I mean, it was an amazing thing. It's amazing experience in
Yeah.
itself. And yeah, but those are the memories that I love to share with my mentor. And to top that off, there were also endless conversations, and of course with those conversations came in the value. And like I said, never there was never a day
Yeah.
in our conversation that was
Mm-hmm.
bland. It was all amazing, and it was
Mm-hmm.
all worth. So that's my portion of
Yeah. Look
the
at you
thing.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're doing some great stuff. Right.
Oh, cheers. Thank you so much.
For
Uh,
sure.
I'm still learning though. I mean, I haven't really transitioned into it. I'm still learning. I'm still gathering intel. I'm still learning to understand what it needs to be done, what has to be done, and I'm sure I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
mess up along the way. It's just that the
Yeah.
experience
Mm-hmm.
itself is what I yearn for. That feeling of it is what I really
Yeah.
yearn for. And yeah, I hope
100%.
I grow more and enjoy and endure basically everything else that has saying I wish I get to experience it in its full entirety. So
Yes.
that's
100%. That's
that's
really
my
good.
insight
Mm-hmm.
to a little bit. I know it sounds less. I mean, prior to what you've shared with me, it's much less, and I hope during the course of the year I get to add more collection to the experiences aside from the small tiny experience. I felt like I'm less of a sharer here because entrepreneurship is still a learning thing. I have a lot to I have a
Yeah.
lot to go through. And yeah, um with that in mind,
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. I think entrepreneurship is a never ending learning experience, right? So
yeah,
you have to really learn day by day. You have to really be better 1% every day, right? So, and at the end of the year, you are 365 better, right? So if you
Yeah.
ditch the weekends,
Yeah.
you do it day ops, you do the math, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's the most important part when it regards to entrepreneurship. You have to learn every single day, be 1% better every day. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I want to share though that I'm sure I don't know if I've shared this in previous episodes as well. If I've done, probably someone would call me out. But I want to share the interesting thing that I've gone through though. During the years of my art, of course, the creative side, I never really want to take back any of the experience of it. But one thing I was grateful for
Uh-huh.
in and during the lost years is the fact that it's not that the endurement that I went through or the depression that I've picked up from it is that the work ethic of it is kind of spilling over. And now, talking about lost years, it kind of feels like during the recording of this episode, it's still we're still in a pandemic, and that feeling of being lost in isolation. And I'm sure I've shared this countless of times that I think I spent from 2005 to 2015 was my lost years. It was more the creative stuff, and the work ethic that I've picked up over that is kind of the main thing that I still have, like during this conversation, and thing. I have certain habits that I really I cannot I cannot really get it off of my system. I don't know if I got the message through, but what I mean to say is that I've kind of
Uh-huh.
inherited certain
Mm-hmm.
habits. It's funny that when you're
Uh-huh.
talking to me or when someone's talking to me, I cannot sit down and sit down in
Mm-hmm.
class. And it's like I think my dad said this best in his episode in the Let's Talk series is that uh, I have the sense of
Uh-huh.
ADHD. I have the obsessiveness of ADHD because my
Mm-hmm.
hands cannot really sit down, and because when I'm talking, having conversation, I got to my
Uh-huh.
hands, my brain, everything has to keep doing something, or else I'm equivalent to death. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure I don't know if I've mentioned it, but yeah, that's the feeling that I've had,
Yeah.
that I've gone through that
Mm-hmm.
system that it's like my hand is itching for something to do, and or
Uh-huh.
wanting to do
Yeah, for sure.
something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are the
Get
habits.
that.
Like I cannot really sit down
Mm-hmm.
properly without thinking about doing something creative. Um, More of the
Mm-hmm.
perfectionism I think has rubbed off on me. In Yeah, I think I've shared this that
Yeah.
I have this sense
Okay.
of
Mm-hmm.
perfectionism when it comes to social media, since we are all
All right.
working in the social media digital sphere. I have this obsessiveness for
Uh-huh.
perfection. I know many people will say that perfectionism is, I mean, yeah, people are preaching that perfectionism doesn't work for certain people. But for me, my insight to this is just a personal take is that um, out of habit, it's become a thing for me. And from my end, it's an itch that I can scratch, especially when I do something. I'm in the market, like I said, I do a lot of marketing stuff. I do all my
Yeah.
posters,
Mm-hmm.
my Facebook posts, my Instagram posts, all over in Canva. And I have the habit of missing out a
Mm-hmm.
particular word that I share. I take out that thing and I have to redo the entire thing. And there are certain nights that I check my social media.
Gotcha.
If I
Mm-hmm.
miss out something, I'm not satisfied. I have to delete that, and I have to. It's like it's kind of the thing. Like I said, it all came with the thing. It's like
Yeah.
the perfectionism, the work ethic
Uh-huh.
of getting things done. Of course, sometimes
Yeah.
the
Mm-hmm.
laziness. The laziness is also
And I
one.
see your Google, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, your Google sheet. It's really, really organized. I
Oh
think
yeah,
that
yeah,
that's really, communicates what
yeah.
you're doing right now. I think that's that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and adapting to technology is one thing. It's like I remember my first experience with Zoom. I, I I don't remember exactly what the day was,
Yeah.
but I had my first Zoom meeting. Someone invited me, pal. We're gonna have a meeting, Zoom meeting. Okay, Zoom meeting. And then I downloaded the software, the app, and all that stuff. And then the first thing I said, I remember this distinctively. Is the first thing I said, "Hey folks, I'm sorry if I mess up in this Zoom meeting. This is my first time. I'm learning the ropes, so forgive me if I screw up here. I feel like I'm a Zoom virgin." So yeah,
Mhm.
and everybody laughed it off. And then from then on out till today, I still enjoy it. I'm learning a lot. I'm still learning how to work on it, and
Where
how
did you get the Zoom virgin?
yes, it's funny. It's funny. That's the thing, because when you start, I don't know if you know this, but there are certain things like when you start, when you're watching a Netflix series, it becomes like, or you're even tuning
Uh-huh.
into Netflix, or you're tuning into YouTube, and it's the first time you're getting into it. It's like you're like a virgin basically. The main point of it is like you're getting into it for the first time, and
Yes. Uh-huh.
that experience itself is like the idea of virgin. It's you don't know what to expect kind of feeling. You're in it, and then you think,
Gotcha.
I don't know, I'm not trying to pull out sexual innuendos here,
It
folks.
hurts. Yeah. It hurts. Yeah.
It's not sexual
It hurt in the
innuendo.
first time, right?
Yeah. You had to say it, I didn't say it. I wanted to step out of that, but yeah. But yeah, uh, I didn't expect you to say that, but yeah, the main point of it is that when you're starting out, you're always a virgin. It's granted that
Yes,
if
for
you're
sure.
joining Netflix, you're a Netflix virgin. If you're watching YouTube, or you're doing YouTube, you're a YouTube virgin. Or if you're doing Zoom, basically, yeah, that's the experience in it. But yeah, those are the things. Yeah, I didn't expect that we're
It's
gonna
fun.
talk
Eh?
about
Yeah.
virginity in this context. But yeah, oh man,
It's still
uh,
in the context of digital. Still in the context of digital. That's accepted. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, wow, that was interesting. That was an interesting conversation there. Um, I want to. Before we wrap this conversation, I was actually blurring now. I didn't know anything to say about that now. I was uh, I was running out of things to say. Before we end this conversation, of course, if my listeners, I hope my listeners would love to connect with you. How do they find you in social media, pal?
Yeah, for sure. You can search, just search my name, Jaychrist Teves. So that's Jaychrist, and Te Victory Es. So I think I'm one of the weirdest name
Yeah.
uh, in the social media realm, including Rajiv. So, you, just search it and you will find my social media, and you can add me. And then if you have any questions, just reach out, and I would happy to to answer those questions you have in mind when it comes to creative entrepreneurship or digital stuff. Anything that you want to know about innovations and marketing, I would be really, really passionate to share my insights about that for free, folks. Right? So, and you can also check my website, jaychristeves.com, and check that out, and make sure to consume what you can consume. Like what I've said, less but better, right? So if you can consume less, but you can take action on those informations as soon as you can, I think that's better. Right? And you can also check my podcast, if that's okay, Rajiv,
Sure,
if
sure,
I can share that link as well.
sure.
You can link that up on your show notes. Yeah, it's the designlifeshow.com. So hopefully Rajiv would drop by on that as well. So for sure, very soon. That's the designlifeshow.com, and yeah, check those content, and let me know what you think, and let me know if you have any questions. So, and anything I could help, yeah, just let me know.
Yeah.
So again, thank you, Rajiv.
I want to say thank you to my guest, Jaychrist Teves, and we've had an opening. What a way to end our conversation about
This
virginity.
Virgin podcast. This
Virgin
is a
call.
Virgin podcast experience with Rajiv. Thank you so much.
I'm not
Thank
editing
you.
that portion out, and this I am not editing that. I'm gonna leave that there.
That's cool. That's cool. That's cool.
So yeah, I want to thank
That's
my
cool.
guest again,
Thank you, man.
my 40th guest. Hopefully, once we finish the season, hopefully I would love to have you back. I know you're a very busy man. I hope I get you back here and we'd have a nice conversation and open up our conversation. That will be amazing. It's an open, it's just it's always
Yeah,
one
would be
text
honor.
away. Yeah. So on behalf of
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
On behalf of the Rajiv Show, for those who are tuning in and for those who have supported my show, all the listeners out there, I want to say thank you. Thank you for supporting, and thank you for motivating me to push myself through. And we're here. We are already in the 40th episode of the Let's Talk series. Like I said, this is the mega, super, super mega duper project. And I'd like to extend my heart to all those who are tuning in from the Philippines, from India, and all across the world. I want to say thank you. And with that in mind, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And as always, folks, I will see you in the next episode. Cheers.